All right, back here on Spotlight. The Marlins overall have been a bit of a surprise lately in baseball. They're 7-3 in their last 10, one of the better records in baseball in all of June. And one of the biggest names on their roster has been a little bit of a disappointment, to say the least, in Sandy Alcantara. So post Tommy John surgery, he's failed to look like the Sandy of the glory days that we know and love. He's taken the mound today against Cincy, sporting a 7.01 ERA. His contributions have been worth an estimated 1.4 wins below replacement, and we're looking at the numbers here. Sandy so far this season, as mentioned, the ERA, not good. The 4-8 record when he's starting. So he might still get traded, I don't know, and be on the chopping block for the Marlins. Again, that trade deadline quickly approaching on July 31st. So let's dive into all of it with our MLB analyst, Matt Snyder. Matt, I keep saying this. Going into the season, I think Sandy might have been one of the only names I could rattle off from the Marlins. And now, is he still a piece that he could trade away, given how he has been performing and all those really terrible numbers that we just punched up on the screen?
Well, I'm sure the Marlins think that they could spare him. I just don't know if they'll get that much back for him right now, the way he's been pitching this year. It's his first full season coming off Tommy John surgery. Sometimes it takes guys a little bit of time to kind of find themselves again after that and everything. And obviously this is an extreme example, having an ERA over 7 when he just won the Cy Young Award in 2022. I don't see where this could come together this month unless he strings together 3 or 4 good starts starting right now. And he could. There's still enough time for him to string together 2 or 3 good starts before the trade deadline. There's still enough time for the Marlins to fall far enough back to where it all works out. And the Marlins might think, hey, we're getting rid of him before he falls back off a cliff or anything. I also don't think it would be the worst thing in the world if they did hold on to him, because he signed through next season. There's a team option for 2027. So if the Marlins do indeed sell and they don't get what they think is fair value for a former Cy Young winner who should conceivably still be in his prime, I think they'll hold on to him and maybe revisit it in the offseason or even next trade deadline, assuming they think he can get himself back on track next year.
Okay, let's play some hypotheticals, though, because as mentioned, he is on the mound tonight in Cincinnati, or against Cincinnati, I should say. If he does string together a couple of good starts, what are some potential landing spots that could make sense for him in your eyes?
Oh, there's a lot of teams that need starting pitching, and we know the Cubs are already looking at the Marlins because they've been attracted to Edward Cabrera there. They've also been connected to Mitch Keller of the Pirates. So the Cubs are definitely a team looking for a starter. The Yankees need at least 2 starters. So the Yankees would definitely be another team that would be connected. Their farm system's a little bit depleted, but again, we know Alcantara's value is depressed right now. So maybe this is a fit where the Yankees can swoop in, kind of buy low, and hope that it ends up working out and Alcantara finds himself with the Yankees.
Speaking of buy low, we want to dive in and talk about some buy low targets. So who are some guys that could have some good value and some higher upside here?
Zach Gallen of the Diamondbacks heads to free agency after the year. It looks like the Diamondbacks are going to fall to a spot where they probably do need to sell. Corbin Burns is out for the season. The offense has been pretty inconsistent throughout the year. They have 4 guys who are hitting free agency after the year. So Gallen, I think, is a top one when you talk about a buy low, because he's a former top 5 finisher in Cy Young twice, actually. He's a former starter in the All-Star game. He has an ERA of over 5 right now. So I think that's somebody where other teams might look at Gallen and say, oh, we could fix him. And he was good last start out. Mitch Keller, if you just see the 3-10 record, you might think, oh man, why would my team want somebody with a 3-10 record? He's not that bad. And a lot of the scouts that you talked to around the game thinks he could find another gear if he would just get away from the Pirates and go to a team that has better system ops in place for their starting pitching. So those are the 2 that jump out to me the most. I think you could look at the Guardians too. Carlos Santana not having that good of a year. He's a free agent after the year. He's somebody that he takes a lot of walks. He can hit for power. So if you look at the OPS, he's somebody that might have a big second half, but he's also approaching 40 years old, so you never know. Also, just to throw it out there, looking at the Guardians, Shane Bieber is working his way back from Tommy John surgery. He's not going to be able to make a start before the trade deadline, but he might be able to return soon thereafter, and somebody might say, hey, before he gets a few starts under his belt, let's dive on him right now.
We're going to talk sellers and buyers, Matt, starting with the sellers. And if you're looking, back at last season, one of the teams on your sellers list just went to an ALCS, and then the other team just went to the World Series 2 seasons ago. So who are the sellers? Who are they going to be at the trade deadline?
Yeah, it shows how quickly things can change. With the Guardians, they were weren't really having a good year anyway, but then they just lost 10 games in a row. They fell pretty far out. You look at guys like Lane Thomas and Carlos Santana, they'll get what they can for them. But the interesting thing this week is there started to be whispers on Stephen Kwan, all-star outfielder. He's not that expensive. He has 2 years of arbitration left. And Emmanuel Clase, who was the best closer in baseball last year, there's whispers about him as well. That's kind of how the Guardians operate. They try to get ahead of it. If they do just sell off Lane Thomas and Carlos Santana, that's more spare parts. But Stephen Kwan, Emmanuel Clase, that would bring them something back. And again, I already mentioned Bieber. That might be where they could make some headway on getting ahead of a rebuild and kind of make it into a reload. Also, you mentioned World Series 2 years ago, the Diamondbacks. Yeah, Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen, Josh Naylor, and Eugenio Suarez, 4 names who could really bring something back to the Diamondbacks. They're right in that spot where if they lose a few games, they fall back to 6 or 7 out of that wild card. With Burns out for the season, they have Carroll and Marte under control for several more years. They could sell and still look to contend next year. So I think the Diamondbacks are going to be one. And I also, on the AL side, I think the Angels are going to fall out of the race. They've been on the periphery of the race for a little bit, but I think they're going to fall out. And I know everybody wants to think about Mike Trout. I still don't think that's going to happen. But Tyler Anderson, Kenley Jansen, veteran arms who could help teams in the final year of their contract. And I do wonder a little bit about Joe Adell. 2 arbitration years after this. He's showing his power stuff this year. There might not be that many bats on the market. It might be the time for the Angels to say, you know what, he's as good as he's ever going to get. Let's get something for him right now.
All right, let's go to the buyers. And you do have the Red Sox in this category, which after the whole Rafael Devers situation, there was a lot of thought of like, hey, what are they going to do? So why right now? They have been riding this win streak, playing the Rockies coming up. So you think the Red Sox are going to be buyers here? Tell us why.
Yeah, they're only 1 game back of the wild card, and I think they would like to be able to show their fan base, hey, look, the reason we traded Devers was not because we are sellers. It was because we thought he was bad for the team and we wanted to shore up the money to use it elsewhere. So in order to help win the respect of the fans back after trading their best hitter when it looked like they were just getting hot and getting into playoff position, hey, now you go out and buy. They've got Alex Bregman coming back soon from injury. Again, they're only 1 card out. They could go out, they could get a bat, they could have somebody who could play first base and DH. They could shore up the pitching staff as well. They can go out and add a bunch of spare parts just so they show the fans, hey, we are going for it. The Devers trade was not a sign that we're selling, that we're giving up on the season. We just thought it was a bad mix. Also on this list, I've got the Reds. They hired Terry Francona. They're hovering around 500. They haven't made the actual playoffs. I'm not counting 2020. Since 2013, it's an antsy fan base. They could use some offensive help at third base. Eugenio Suarez, I just mentioned, could be on the block from the Diamondbacks. Maybe a little reunion there. I also do think, as we just saw the standings there on the American League side, the Rangers, they won the World Series in 2023. They're only 3.5 out of a wild card spot right now. They need an offensive boost. They could use a rental starter. Those are some of the teams that I think are kind of on the periphery of contention or on the outside looking into the playoff picture who I do think want to jump in and want to be involved.
Matt, I know you know this as a Cubs fan. Cincinnati Reds fans are absolutely crazy, and they're sitting at 500. You start telling them they're going to be buyers and that Eugenio Suarez is going to come back. Like, Cincinnati Reds Twitter or X might just implode. Unfortunately, we are out of time, so I can't ask you about the Braves, which I feel like is better for my mental health. Matt, we certainly appreciate it as we are talking about the MLB trade deadline quickly approaching, getting a look at the odds to win the World Series. I remember in the preseason, the Braves were like top 3 on this. Yep. Not anymore. The Dodgers still there, plus 210. The Tigers at 7-1. The Phillies and the Yankees at plus 850.